You're welcome to the workshop on experience of the University of Strathclyde Clinic. Mediation Clinic has recent graduates. Eunice and I got into the program in September 2022. So we will be presenting together, but we have an anchor person, and that's Adrian. So I'll ask Adrian to introduce herself at this time. Adrian?
Hi, yeah, I'm a former student at the Mediation Clinic, and I went through the whole masters and completed that at the end of last year. Worked as an assistant mediator for quite a lot of cases, probably in excess of 20 cases, and then became one of the Strathclyde lead mediators at the end of last year. And as Ian Crow said, I'll just be here if you've got any queries during the talk, then do just pop a message in the chat and I'll get back to you. Thanks very much, Ian Crow.
Thank you, Adrian. Eunice, please kindly introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian Crow, and thank you everybody for joining. My name is Eunice Olatunji. I'm a lawyer and a mediator. I started mediating in 2016 with Lagos State Model Law Courthouse. It's the first court annexed mediation center in West Africa. And then in quest for more knowledge, I enrolled with Strathclyde University for the course Mediation and Conflict Resolution, which we just concluded. And we love to share our experience so far today. I want to thank you again for joining. Thank you. I hope I'm audible.
We heard you, Eunice. That's fine. So thank you very much, Eunice. My name once again is Oyinkro Olobio. And Eunice and I started the program in September 2022. We had our graduation 2 days ago, incidentally, together with Adrian. So we're a team of authentic students who will be willing to share our experience. At this time, we will start, and I'll ask Eunice to start the session with the introduction. Eunice, thank you.
Yeah, please, can you? The slide, please.
It's there. Please, can you see the opening slide, slide 2?
No.
Please, can the rest of you see my slide, please?
Yeah, I can see your slide, the first slide.
Eunice, just which slide do you want? They can see the slide.
I only see slide 1. Yes, we go to 2, please. Go to slide 2. It's
slide 2.
So it's actually a quote from one of the scholars and talking about the theory of mediation. If you can still scroll it, it's not showing on the screen. What is showing is slide 1 on Yukro. So you can go to the next slide. So you're talking about the experience, what we are taught about mediation, that you move from people focusing on the problem, talking about interest and not position. But how do you get people to get into that without getting into the mediation room? And we discover that just learning the theory alone is not enough. You need to get into the practice to know. So how do we actually separate people from the problem? What is the difference between position and interest? As we know that many people, maybe because of my home background, lawyers, always trying to win, always trying to score a point. And then community mediation, I said, no, don't talk about the position. So how do we do it without you getting into the mediation room? And this is what this course provides for you. You don't just learn the theory, you also understand the reasoning behind the theory in practice. And you are able to see whether I'm going to drown or I'm going to swim. How am I going to separate the issues from the people, really? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Our experience, how far we've gone, and then for aspiring students or current students or for mediators who are looking to understand the practice, some of the things that we do in practice and we're wondering that we don't even know. Maybe we have gotten to that state of unconscious competence, but learning helps you to understand some of the reason behind what you do. And we hope you get something out of this today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eunice. So the next slide, I hope you can see how did we get here. Can you see the slide on how we can get here? So, my experience with mediation started back in Nigeria. I'd worked for an oil and gas company, one of the international oil companies, and I had a lot of interface with the communities, the government, the NGOs, the media. So, I mean, various people in the mediation space have their backgrounds which act as some form of drivers. And so when I took early retirement 2.5 years ago, I wondered what to do. And surfing the net, I needed to go back to school. I saw the program on mediation and conflict resolution at the University of Strathclyde. What endeared me most was the fact that they had a mediation clinic. I mean, that I found quite attractive. And then I signed on, registered for the course and came into school. And then it's been quite an experience. So the beginning for me was exciting. It was a wonderful experience. Now, going through the modules, the first semester we had, long weekends, Saturdays, Sundays, where you had to do practice mediations. We also had sessions of observation and the rest of them. So the course modules, and was also a very exciting period as well, right? So the choice of the course, the experience doing the course, I found very attractive, very experiential. And Charlie said this a few minutes ago. Mediation is something you improve on as you practice, as you have, repeated sessions. The clinic, which is what is the focus, the clinic as a tool of education, gave us the opportunity to have practice sessions as much as you want to volunteer yourself. And at this time, I will hand over to Eunice to go ahead with the next slide. Eunice.
Okay. So we're saying that our journey so far, how did we get here? Onyekuro talk about his experience. So most of our talking today is going to be stories and then coupled with what we've learned so far. Sometimes I will still go back to my undergraduate time where my focus was just to pass. All I was doing, just going to class, no social activities, no engagement. Yes, I came out with a good grade, but did the school really pass through me? And we discovered that even as master's students, some people still go through the same routine, especially when you're married, you have children, you are working, and your mind is not truly there. So to be able to make most of this program, you have to allow the school pass through you, and then the school, you pass through the school as well. Like Onyekuro mentioned, we have some course modules that are very interesting. We did theory and practice, theory of mediation. So this theory allows you to listen, to read wide literatures about different people, because mediation is still evolving, it's still emerging, and different people coming up with different theories that could help you to understand why do people behave the way they do. The most difficult things to do is actually managing people. Now you're faced with two people in a mediation room. What happened? What is the reason for the conflicts? But when you understand the theory, you may be able to now, and maybe this is what I've read somewhere, maybe this is what is playing out. So we have a course on theory of mediation. And after learning the theory, there's a module on mediation practice. The mediation practice, we had extensive practice that we had different role play. You play as a mediator, your role as a co-mediator, even saying that I have been mediating maybe like 7 years before Kobe, it was a new experience. And like I used to say that every session you go to is a new experience on its own. That, what's the dynamics of this? So this mediation in practice really helped us to understand the theory that we have learned. Apart from this mediation, because some definition of mediation will say that, it's an assisted negotiation. We learn about negotiation as well, and not just theory. We also had a practice experience of negotiation and a lot of other courses that we had. Employment mediation. We also have trainings we have sessions, role play, understanding what's the difference between this and other type of mediation. You talk about different techniques. You know, I think generally we talk about the evaluative style, we talk about the facilitative style. But you know that there are other authors that will say, oh, I think there is a transformative style. What does it mean? By the time you understand it, that, oh, this is kind of practice that I really want. This is an ideal situation for me. But does it really work out in practice? That, oh, I want to be a transformative mediator. I want to be adopting a narrative style. For people who may not have a background in mediation, mediation is a process where a neutral sit down and help people resolve their matters. So there are different approaches to go about in trying to help people come to an agreement. When we're talking about evaluative style, we talk about people with expertise in an area and trying to get people to process what are your best alternatives to you sitting down and resolving your matter. Assuming the matter goes to court, what are the chances that you're going to win in court? So it is argued that, oh, if you're not really an expert in that area, you shouldn't even use that style. And there's a facilitative method, which is a very popular style, that you facilitate communication, allow parties to talk to each other, and then you don't give advice, you don't give opinion, but parties come to a resolution by themselves. And there is a narrative style where you try to get parties to see the story in another perspective from what they are narrating. Tell the story. What exactly are you saying? And then by them listening to the story, like playing a devil advocate, doing a switch role, they understand other people's perspective. And we have a restorative style where the focus is on the relationship of the parties. So in what area, how do you apply all of this style in different mediations that you encounter? I know that all of this practice, when we had our practice session, we're able to experiment some of these theories that we've heard that, oh, this cannot work in this type of mediation, or this is not even working at all. I have to be strategic. So this really helps a lot. Also, the clinic has a program for observation where you observe the real mediation session going on. Mediation is a confidential process, but when you enroll on this course, you have the opportunity to listen, sit in a mediation room. It's a privilege which you will not ordinarily get in other places, but you sit in the mediation room and listen to mediator anchor a process, which is a very, very good initiative that an opportunity that the school had offered anyone who truly wants to learn the art of mediation. And apart from the course module, you have the opportunity to observe more, like 3 observations. And we have wonderful administrators at the Mediation Clinic. Just reach out to them and they will put you to, attach you to experienced mediators to be able to observe the process. And when you have passed the mediation in practice modules, and the number of mediation observation has been carried out, you will be allowed to act as an assistant mediator. And with that, you're already building your experience in mediation, not just learning the theory without knowing how to apply it, which helps a lot. And apart from that, after a number of assisted mediation, you can put yourself forward that now I think I'm ready to be a lead mediator. And you'll be assigned a leader to observe your practice, and this also helps. It doesn't end there. The learning is not just in the classroom. After each mediation session, which I never know until I enroll on this course, it's what they call reflective writing. This is a very vital way of learning. You're practicing and you're learning from your own practice. After each session, you sit down, what really goes well in this session? What step did I take that works out? Like I mentioned, or like Charlie mentioned, that the best way to mediate is to learn mediation is to mediate. So in your mediation this session, what is it that you learned well? I will share one funny experience I had. I read a material, I can't remember the author. I'm talking about two children trying to resolve matter. It was a transformative style. And I'm like, okay, I think I love this style so much. I will try it in my next mediation. So I had a virtual mediation with Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. And I asked party to switch role that let's assume that you are in this person in private caucus, of course. And it was a disaster. It did not work out well at all. I felt so silly. And I had to admit that, okay, I know that I will never use this style again when I finish. So what this was reflection will help you to like, okay, what did I do right? Is there a way I can apply this method next time that it will not give me this result that has given, that I achieved this time? So the reflective practice, I don't know where you're joining from, but this is what we can inculcate so that if truly you want to learn, every mediation session you observe or you participate in, you sit down, what went well? What did not go well? How can I be better going forward? And I think I've talked more than what I'm supposed to. Onyekroso, I'm sorry. Please take off the next slide.
Thanks, Eunice. We will now talk about the Mediation Clinic and mediator education. So the Mediation Clinic of the University of Strathclyde is a critical part of the program. And like we had been told at the opening session, it's doing a whole lot with regards to, helping to deliver on the mandate of mediation. To start with, you have two people manning the office at this time. Until recently, we had just one person, Pauline. Rosie joined a few months back because of the increase in the scope of deliverable of the clinic. Normally, cases are referred to them through the sheriff's court. Prior to this time, we had about 16, 17 sheriff courts the clinic was working with. And then a couple of months ago, starting essentially from this year, the scope of the sheriff courts of the clinic has increased to about 38. So cases can be referred to the clinic from any of these sheriff courts, and small claim cases largely. Most times the exposure is about £5,000 below. The process starts with an intake. You get in touch with the disputants, and then they have a couple of minutes, maybe 10, 15, depending on how intense it is, at times much longer, and take an intake, in which case a brief is taken about the issue, and some paperwork are also done. The case is subsequently assigned to a mediator, and an assistant mediator. An observer may also be required, quite often an assistant mediator. And then you could have a pre-mediation session. After the pre-mediation, the actual mediation holds, and hopefully there will be an agreement. If there is an agreement, the settlement agreement is drafted at the end of the mediation. Eunice had already spoken about the other things that happen through the mediation clinic. And just for emphasis sake, we're talking about the mediation clinic and mediators education. As you practice, as you get involved working with the mediation clinic, you get to know about the intake. As a mediator, you might have to be the one to take the intake as well. And you also might want to do a pre-mediation session. From my personal experience, having a pre-mediation can be a game changer because you are able to engage with the disputants, you understand where they are coming from, and during the mediation, it helps how you manage, the process. And then after the mediation, and if you get a settlement, or even if you don't get a settlement, you will have to write a reflective summary. The reflective summary, as well as the summary of the mediation summary and mediation reflective report. I had to actually fill one this morning. I had a mediation last Monday together with one of the lead mediators in the clinic, and we had a settlement and had to fill the report. The report has been sent to the mediation clinic. So normally we do that, and then we also will, have at times you send that report. The mediation clinic also provides a lot of opportunities for learning for mediators education. One of them, again, is the peer review. During peer reviews, mediators come together and they review various mediation sessions. You tell them your concerns, you share with them your challenges, and you take learnings from your peers. So it gives an opportunity for people to come together, share experience, share challenges, and take learnings and suggestions from each other. Right. I'll give an instance. I mean, you have someone who doesn't want to come for mediation, eventually goes back to the sheriff court, sends back for mediation, and you settle, or you don't settle. You want to learn, what could I have done differently, and things like that. We also do have networking opportunities like the coffee session. We have periodic coffee sessions where we come together and share our experiences as well. Talk about, issues about mediation and how we can grow in mediation education. So it's also an opportunity for continued education development. We also have access to trends in mediation. Mediation Clinic has been a hub where, you're either dealing with the Scottish mediation unit, you're dealing with the government, you're dealing with whoever. So it's like a hub, that helps mediators' education further. And lastly, and quite important, is the annual Mediation Clinic conference. We had one face-to-face last year, and this year we're having a virtual one. It's also an opportunity for us to engage with one another, pick some learnings, talk about the trends, talk about things that we can do to improve on our mediation skills. So at this time, I will move on to Eunice to share with us the way forward as, student mediators. Thank you. Eunice.
Thank you, Onyekuro. All right, so taking off from what Onyekuro had said, what have you been doing as a student? For those who have been participating, I want to encourage you that you have to continue. For those who have not, we want to encourage you to join mediation network, such as Scottish Mediation, the Relationship Scotland, CMC. There are so many mediation network that you can join. As professional, I always say that LinkedIn, it's a very good tool where you can actually connect with more mediators. There are several seminars, conferences like this that goes on all the time. So you need to be part of the network. You need to join the team to be able to know more, to learn more, apart from the theory aspect of the mediation. Then you may have to take further specialized training. Like I used to tell Onyekuro, okay, I think I tell Onyekuro that as a lawyer, I've done a lot of family matters. And in Nigeria, it's actually compulsory, just like you have in Scotland, for especially when you have children or you have property to settle, to go through one form of mediation or amicable resolution meeting before you go into hearing proper. And I see a lot of emotions going on, and I tell myself that I'm not sure I want to do family mediation. But I look at things, I love children. I would really love to make impact in the life of people. What do I need to do? There are trainings on how to mediate family matters. And I think the last time I told Charlie that I think I'm going to give it another shot. Go for other training in a specialized area that you are looking at. Go for training. As a commercial lawyer, mediators, you may want to actually know more about business aspect of things so that you can have holistic understanding when you're going through, or when you are in a session, you understand what parties are saying, you understand the language being spoken, and you are put in a better place to help party move their matter forward. Then I want to encourage us to continue to practice with the Mediation Clinic. Maybe you don't have a mediation clinic where you're coming from. As a student, you can set up something like that. Start something. Start practicing. You may be saying that, oh, well, we don't have the kind of opportunity that mediation clinic, Strike Mediation Clinic has. Our school does not have any funding. But even within the faculty, you can start something. You need to practice. You need to practice. And like I mentioned in my first point, join different networking. You will see opportunity for role play, because if you are not practicing, I'm wondering, how will you get better as a mediator? We need to continue learning. We need to continue practicing. And don't be afraid to give yourself up for voluntary services. Offer yourself for voluntary service. Create a time that I just want to practice, 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 practice. The more you practice, the more you know. The more you practice, the more you become perfect at it. You know, sometimes when you want to start, like, oh, I don't know how to start. But before you know it, you become so competent that you don't do some things and you wonder, oh, where did that come from? It's actually coming from the reservoirs of knowledge that you have acquired and practice that you have acquired over the period of time. So I want to encourage us to volunteer, join network, give yourself up for voluntary services. It's not all about money at the initial stage. I understand that we all have needs, but if you don't give out your time, you may not be as good at it, and you will not have the confidence to say that I know this, I know what I'm doing, I know what I've engaged, I'm putting myself up for. It's not enough to have a certificate. You need to be able to have the working knowledge of what you actually said you've learned. So for students, if you have such opportunity in your school or for people in strike, like, please submit yourself to Mediation Clinic, reach out to Mediation Clinic so that you can participate and you can make better use of your education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eunice. We'll just do a bit of a summary of the session. Eunice has actually alluded a bit to this. So if you want to come take the program, or you want to talk about the Mediation Clinic and mediators education, you need to be intentional about it. You need to, it's not a walk through the park experience. It's something that you definitely want to know. You have a bit of a passion for it. From my personal experience, it's been exciting working with a whole lot of lead mediators I met through my engagement with the Mediation Clinic. They've been experienced people. They've been people who are coming to mediation as secondary careers, not their primary career. So you need to come in with a clear intention. You also need to be clear about your goal. What is it you want to achieve? And Eunice just alluded to this when she talked about whether family mediation, commercial mediation, neighborhood mediation, whatever mediation you want to do, you need to have a clear goal. It might just help you. I've heard some lead mediators talk about not being interested in some aspects of mediation. But I also, I mean, I've had people encourage me at the last coffee session I had at the, Mediation Clinic. I remember, so taking some guidance from some senior mediators and saying, if you're interested in this, go specifically get some learning from this aspect, from this group. You might have to take a training with the Scottish mediation and the rest of them. Now, Eunice had talked about allowing the school to pass through you, not just passing through the school. What that means essentially is that you get involved. You're not just there studying mediation, you get involved. Last year, we had to volunteer. For a good number of us who were students volunteered, at the Mediation Clinic to do one thing or the other. You really need to be involved. You need to fold your sleeves and get involved in what is being done at the clinic, and then you can also, improve on your practice. And we've said this before, there can be overemphasis. Put up yourself for mediation service. But be available. Quite a lot of times, every month, doodle also is sent out for those of us who have volunteered, and we are asked about our availability. For me, I am almost ever available. So whenever opportunities come, I make myself available, and I get the session. Of course, you might have some sessions that can be challenging. And from my personal experience, the first 3 mediations I assisted in didn't settle. And I remember engaging Charlie and asking if I was really cut out to be a mediator. Right. So it can be discouraging when you go for mediation and you find some bit of turbulence and the rest of them, and you don't settle. So you begin to ask yourself, am I really cut out to be here? Just be patient. Nothing happens by chance. A lot of work is required to get it done, So, you will need to put up yourself if you want to improve on your education as a mediator. You will need to learn a lot by practice. So at this time, we would go into the Q&A and comment section. And I might want to ask Adrian to run this session on our behalf. We want to take comments from participants. We want to take questions. We want to take reflections. And I see on the call quite a number of, experienced people on the call. We've worked with a number of them as well. We would appreciate if you share your experiences and let us take some learnings from it as well. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Adrian, do you want to run the session, please?
I'm actually keeping an eye on the timings at the moment, so I can't
Okay,
really concentrate
that's
on that. But
fine.
if you wouldn't mind, just
That's fine. I'll go ahead with
that
it.
going.
And
Thank
from
you.
time to time, I might just call on anybody. So I would like Thomas to help share. I mean, Thomas is one of the people I had my early experiences with when I joined the Mediation Clinic. And I mean, Thomas is a retired medical doctor, and it's been nice working with you, Tom. Please, would you like to share one or two experiences here, please? Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
will stop sharing the slide now.
Thanks very much. Wasn't expecting that, to Incro.
It's okay. Thank you. Apologies here.
Yes, I think Eunice in the Incro's presentation reflects very accurately what happens in the clinic. It also reflects their enthusiasm about mediation. And I think the clinic does enthuse people. It enthuses me. And I get a lot of pleasure from mediation, and I've got a lot of pleasure from co-mediating, because when you co-mediate, even with students, you learn things all the time. You learn from other people, you learn from the way they do things, the approach they have, which is very different. I think Incro will probably reflect that. Different mediators have very different styles, and you learn from these different styles in the clinic. That's one of the great values of it. And I think people do, I think he's quite right. You shouldn't get dejected about not settling. That settling is not the be all and end all of mediation. Mediation gives voice to people to open up and tell their story. And many people will enter mediation and not settle, but they've told their story much more than they can do in court. So it has a great value. I did mediation like that the other day. The other mediator mediating with me said, that person didn't want to settle. I said, no, but she wanted to tell her story, and she's told her story, and she feels satisfied having told the story and the other party knowing exactly where she came from. And she was quite happy then to go back to court. But I think the mediation still had value. Anyway, I've talked too much, sorry.
Thank you very much, Tom. You've not spoken too much. Kathleen is also on the call. Would like Kathleen to share her experience too. Kathleen, you don't mind? Apologies.
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I mean, it's fantastic actually to hear your presentation, because as Thomas already says, you really capture the way in which the clinic works, but also the model of teaching. And I'm particularly interested in learning and experiential learning and learning from doing. And to hear you both speak so enthusiastically and so confidently about the journey that you've been on and where you've got to is very satisfying. So for people who don't know me, I'm involved in the teaching during the course, and when people are learning those skills and developing them and trying things out and gaining confidence and gaining the skills. But what I can see is how far you've come since then. And I think your presentation really pulls together the benefits of the model that we use here, and for me the benefits of peer review, peer learning, experiential learning. And to see, like today at the conference, so many former students and the role that you have in the clinic as it moves forward, that provides in a sense, I guess it sustains the clinic. So there's a sort of sustainable model there from the way in which we're operating. But also the big issue that we always have in mediation in Scotland is that people really want to learn to mediate, but then how do we get the opportunity to mediate once we've done a course? And those opportunities can be really limited, and the market can be small, and it's hard to get into it. But what you're doing in the mediation clinic is you're having the opportunity week by week to keep honing those skills to make a difference to the people that you're mediating with. And then from what like Eunice is saying, it's about branching out, making the connections and finding other ways to take those skills forward. So, and I think the fact that we have a much more diverse group of people who are learning to mediate now and participating in the course as well is all to the benefit. And it's the benefit of the people who can access mediation in Scotland as well, that we have a much more diverse group of people who are there to provide mediation. That's to me, that's an amazing like positive benefit to the sort of the globalization of the course, if we want to call it that. So yeah, that's my thoughts, if that's okay.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. I appreciate this. We have a couple of people. I know Momi is a student, Linda is a student. I don't know who all the others are. But please, if you have questions or comments, just let's see your face. Nicholas? Yeah, great. Thank
Yes,
you,
hi.
Nicholas. Yeah.
Hi, Eunice. We did speak on the phone a few weeks ago.
Good to meet you from Australia. Wow.
Yes, thank
Nice.
you.
Thank you for joining.
It is late evening here. I know it's a question, but it's more of a query. Like you mentioned that you had done mediation, and you did that at the multi-door court system in Nigeria. Now, and having gone through this program, how do you see the difference, or what benefits, or what do you think you can take away from that would enhance the mediation center if you are still going back there, or you're seeing something like a multi-door courthouse mediation in Nigeria? What are the differences in that training that you did in Nigeria? I assume that's where you did mediation, then now coming in and learning and studying in Strathclyde. What are the benefits, and what skills do you think are that you could take away to enhance a clinic such as if you were to go back to a clinic in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you so much, Nicholas. I'm really glad that you were able to join. Like I mentioned, I'm very grateful to Lagos Multi-Door Quarters for the opportunity afforded me to be where I am today. I know before I joined mediation, I've been practicing as a lawyer for like 10 years. I love to go to court too. I could be very mischievous and do all of those things. And it gets to a point that you just get tired that there's more to life than just winning at what cost to other people, especially when you're a commercial lawyer. Like, yes, you're winning, but what's the cost to your clients?
Yeah.
And even to you as a lawyer too. Then I got into mediation with Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. There are other institutions that trains, but the benefit I had with Mediation Courthouse was that it's more of role play. It was a 7 days training. And we did role play. Then we were able to do mentorship program like we have in, liking to what we have in Strathclyde. So after the mentorship program, when they see that you are fit to take to control, to mediate, then you are allowed to. And to the glory of God, I became a mentor over there. But one of the practices I mentioned that I was not doing was reflection. One of the training, the general training that you see, it's actually talking about the mainstream of the mediation style, which is the evaluative and the facilitative style of mediation. At Lagos Multi-Door Quarters, what we do is more of facilitative style. And I know that Mediation Clinic too is facilitative style, but the education exposes me to more styles that are there. And then I think in one of my essays, I actually wrote that sometimes when you get into mediation room, you do a combination of these 3 styles together. But I have understanding of what I'm doing. When I finish, I can sit back and say, okay, this is what happened. I can explain that this is what I've seen, and I can tell people, okay, maybe we should do it this way. I learned about strategic thinking. I think I know more about asking questions as well. Question asking. Then the cultural differences. One of my major aim of coming to Strathclyde is to have international exposure. I don't just want to mediate in Nigeria. I want to be able to mediate globally. And this course had offered me that opportunity. You see that there are different cultures. In Nigeria, we are very, very key with respect. I cannot call Tom in Nigeria because he's elderly. I will say daddy. When I'm greeting Tom, I have to bow and bow and bow. But here, it is not like that. It takes time. Do you know? So there are some things that you say that this is flimsy. But here, it is not so. So you have to understand the culture of people. Even speaking. When I first got here, I would listen that how am I going to hear what people are saying? and I do a lot of summary. When we did practice, they said, oh, you did a lot of summary, but it was a strategy that I have to employ so that I will be sure that I heard what people are saying. I summarize, state it again. This is what I heard you saying. Could you confirm that this is what you said? And that helps in a way very well. So it exposes us to intercultural differences, reflective style, peer review, because there is no person that is an island of knowledge. Sometimes you think that, oh, I've arrived, I'm a mentor, but no, you learn all the time. Every time we have a session, it's a learning course for me. So I don't know if I'm able to answer your question with what I've said so far.
Yep, no, it has been because that's what I was getting as the last point where you said, because I'm originally from Fiji, so as you mentioned, it's like
I'm sorry, I have a child that I'm minding and it's making sound under. If you don't mind, sorry.
No, that's okay. It's what I was getting is like similar to what I was trying to ask is like I'm originally from Fiji, so when there's a conflict, it's almost like what is not said, and like you said, you summarize it. Like whereas if in the Western world, it's quite easily more vocal, where you don't really, your summary is very short. Whereas you got to ensure, and that's what I was trying to understand is when you're working in Nigeria and coming into doing this course here, the transition is where you got to keep asking the questions or ask or try and extract what hasn't been said to really get to the bottom of the dispute. So that was the transition which you said. That's why you keep summarizing, keep reflecting, keep trying to get out. Have I understood what you're trying to say? And they may say yes, but you yourself as a mediator might find you're not really getting there. So, and I think that's where I think the benefits of doing training outside of your own home country. Whereas I train in Australia, I work in Fiji, I've done Singapore training, and each time is slightly different. While you get the base model, but you always have the cultural nuances that you pick up on. So yeah, no, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
you very much. Yeah, that's fine. Tom, I'm going to come to you shortly. We have less than 7 minutes to go. Do we have one or two other people who are interested? I know we have Grace and Fiona here who I'm not sure they are part of the training currently. Momi and Linda are taking the current program. I don't know Roman, but would like to hear from you briefly. If it's a minute, 2 minutes, have you really enjoyed having this session with us? Tom, can we listen to you now? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Just one thing in reflective practice. When we reflect, both mediators, we co-mediate in the clinic all the time, and both mediators make their comments separately on the mediation log, and that's sent to the clinic director, who will often comment on will reflect on our reflections. So with that, we get a third-party input into what's happened in the mediation and his suggestions about what we might have done differently, or how we did well in the mediation. So reflective practice and peer review, or peer support we call it, it's extremely important in the clinic. And I think that's one of the main things that separates our clinic from many other clinics, is the strength of that process, which is part of our process of ensuring quality practice. And it's reassuring, I think it's reassuring for the Scottish Government, who we do a lot of work for, reassuring for the law school and the university that we are attempting to practice. We've just developed kind of new standards of practice specifically for our clinic. So we're doing a lot of work. And another thing you didn't mention, Oenkra, is your involvement in the committee of the clinic. Both Eunice and Oenkra are in the Mediation Clinic committee.
Thanks. So we actually, Eunice and I are on the board of the Mediation Clinic. We joined the board shortly after we got into the program, and the board in itself is a training school. Fiona, can we hear your voice? Eunice, you'll have to wait. Let's listen to the rest of the people on the call. Fiona, can we hear your voice? I'd like to hear from Momi and Linda, Grace and Roman as well. 1 minute, everybody. Thank you. Fiona.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for your presentation. Unlike, I think, everybody else in this call, I'm actually based on the east coast of Scotland in Edinburgh. And I split my mediation time between working with the Edinburgh Sheriff Court and also through the organisation I work with, which is the law firm Anderson Strathern. And within Anderson Strathern, there are 4 of us who are qualified mediators. 3 are lawyers. I am not a lawyer. I work as an HR business partner. So that's a little bit of background about me. I'm relatively new to the whole mediation field. This is the second Strathclyde clinic I've attended. Last year it was in person at the university. But it's good to see you all today. And I'm fascinated to hear about cultural nuances. So thank you, Nicholas, for just raising that. There's cultural nuances between the east and the west coast of Scotland. I can't imagine what they must be like globally. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. Do we have any other person who wants to talk? Grace, Roman, Momi, Linda.
Okay, hello everyone. So I just want to say this has really been an interesting conversation. It has instilled, built what I have always on my values. I love listening to Eunice. It was because coming into Strathclyde, we had an incident at the airport that kind of affected the way I relate with people. It was about my child, and we had an incident at the airport, so it kind of put me back in my shell, and I didn't really involve myself at the mediation clinic, though I did I did some observations, but I was withdrawn. But this session has made me realize that as a student of Strathclyde, there are lots of opportunities available to me to utilize and not just go to class, write my essays and all. But I think going forward, I would be more involved in mediation as a whole. Thank you so much, Eunice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have less than 3 minutes to go. Momi, can we see your face? Grace, can everybody come up? Can we see your faces, please? Everybody, can you open your visuals, please? Can we see your, if you don't mind. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So can we take 1 minute from Grace? How has the session been? You are muted. You're muted. You need to unmute.
Hello, everyone.
Great,
It's so good to be in your midst today.
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw the advert on LinkedIn, on Eunice's page, I couldn't turn the pages so quickly. I had to go in, search more. It was quite fascinating to see that you have a clinic that is doing amazingly well. I've gone through and I've seen some things there, and I wish that in the near future that will be part of your program. Thanks. You so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Momi, you enjoyed the session?
Yeah, hello everyone.
Yeah, hi.
Thank you so much for the presentation. The presentation was really insightful. I've been able to learn a lot of things that I know I'm going to do moving forward. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed every bit of it.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Eunice, I'll come back to you. Last word, then we'll take Adrian and then we'll close. We actually have 2 minutes to go. Yeah, Eunice, last word.
Well, I just want to say thank you, everybody. Omawumi, thank you for joining. We met online, like I mentioned. Let's make use of social media, especially LinkedIn. Nicholas, thank you. I met Nicholas on LinkedIn too. Thank you for joining this session.
Yeah, great.
What I wanted to say to what Nicholas said, that the benefit of being connected to school, that there was a session I had, and myself and the co-mediator, we are differ on some issue that how was the best way to resolve it. I did know the clinic recommended a training for us from the school, that the school actually has this training, and we had to go for that training because of differences that, okay, what do you think is the best way to approach it? So it's really helpful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Adrian, can we take a last word from you? Great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Hayinko and Eunice. It's been really, really interesting to hear all your reflections, which I would definitely agree with everything. The course is fantastic, and getting to work with a whole load of experienced mediators helps you to build up your confidence before you go out and start doing these things by yourself. So no, I think the course is great, and yeah, I would recommend it to anybody. And the clinic is just a great way of practicing and learning and developing with, the support of so many people. So So thank you for introducing us all to that. So I think we're just finishing on time, which is fantastic. So I think the next session is back in the main room. So if you can log out of this room and go back into the main room. But if you've got any questions at the end, do stay on the call if you're not sure where to go next, and we'll help you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. So just shut down this page and go to the other room, but you can note your questions. We can always take them. So we'll just go back to the main room now. Thank you very much for being part of this. Yeah, later.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. Good to see you again.